Hi, I'm Christine Brookins, and this is Connecting Our Community. Recently, I had the opportunity to visit with our friends at CLASS, Community Living and Support Services. I learned so much about the good things that they are doing in the community that I decided to turn this into a multi-episode series. So, if you want to find out if CLASS can provide supports to you or someone that you know, come along with me on this journey. Now I have the pleasure of speaking with Melva Fair, the CEO, and Shannon McCarty, the Chief Development Officer at CLASS. So ladies, thank you for joining the conversation, and thank you for having me here at CLASS.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for inviting us.
Well, I know that I encounter CLASS frequently as a resource to the community, so it made sense to me that we get in here and talk about who CLASS is and what type of resources you provide. So Melva, you've been around for a few years.
Yes, I've been with CLASS, Community Living and Support Services, it'll be 44 years in October. And so I've seen CLASS grow as an organization. We provide services for people with disabilities. Our philosophy has really been about ensuring that people with disabilities, all disabilities, have lived their best life in the community. So we're really about making sure that people are included in the community. And we have a tagline that summarizes our mission, and that is working towards a community where each belong. Our whole philosophy is built around the belief that people with disabilities are entitled to the same rights and opportunities that you and I would like for ourselves. And so we're really, really passionate about ensuring that people with disabilities live in the community of their choice, have access to education, healthcare, transportation, the opportunity to live in their own home, and have meaningful activities or work, and that they get a chance to live a full life that they choose to have in the community.
Well, I think all those areas that you mentioned, CLASS covers each of those. You provide supports, whether it is out in the community with living in the residence,
right.
Whatever it is that the individual needs to really feel that they're living that meaningful life.
Yeah, and I'd like to look at CLASS as a very diverse, a very diverse organization. So our approach to community supports is really about meeting people where they are, exploring their personal and goals, what they have in mind for themselves, and then helping to develop programmatic goals around that. We approach that through a variety of factors. We have 6 core services. We have a day program, center services, or a structured day program that teaches self-sufficiency skills. We have community integration that really supports people with being able to accomplish their personal goals, provide the support, one-on-one support to help them be successful in developing strategies so that they can live in the community. We have an in-home services program that provides personal assistance services like lightweight housekeeping, lightweight personal care assistance so that people can live on their own. And then we have residential services for people who may need a little bit more support than just living out on their own with just occasional support. This is 24/7 support that allows people to have that extra assistance with being able to take care of their personal, medical, and household management skills. And then for people who really are looking towards having something meaningful in their lives, we encourage people to participate in some type of social activity of their choice, and or pursue some type of employment or vocational, educational, or volunteer experience. So there's a number of ways that we approach supporting people with reaching their goals. And, we try to accommodate that individual's preferences and desires.
I like that you're using the word individual because each person is going to be different with that.
Absolutely.
And that sounds like, you're talking whole picture, support all the way around, whatever it would be. If I can ask you, going back to the roots of the organization, I can only imagine it's grown over time. So can you tell me how, when class started, like back when you were new to the organization, did you start on a smaller scale and then build around it from there, or how did that work?
Sure. So class actually started in 1951.
Okay.
And it was founded by a group of parents who were interested in their children being involved in the community. And so from there, they pursued educational opportunities. Education really then was not a part of the school system. I believe probably in the 70s, the school systems began to accept people with disabilities and really began to focus the education services to assisting individuals with disabilities. There was Public Law 94-142 that came out that allowed kids to get educated in schools. At the time that I started, and maybe even shortly before then, we offered a rehabilitation independent living program. We offered the residential supports, and those were primarily our main services, and then we have vocational services. So we've evolved quite extensively over the years to include, first of all, expanding our residential service and expanding our structured day program supports, adding community support so that individuals, or community integration, so that individuals who wanted to be in community but didn't want to take a part of a facility-based program had the opportunity to get that support so that they can stay in the community. Adding assistive technology, adding vocational supports, right, or employment. I think I said that already, but if I didn't, making sure that people had something meaningful to do. So we probably have grown. We were probably pretty small back then, maybe a $2 or $3 million organization. We were less than $5 million, and we've grown quite extensively over the years to supporting over 400 individuals per year.
Wow.
And indirectly supporting over 1,000 individuals by just through our information and referral services and being able to provide additional supports through our Pennsylvania Link because we also have that program as well. And then just providing additional support and advice to individuals who want to take advantage of community.
Yeah, that is huge growth. And Shannon, I'm just thinking, like, you have a rather large job to support everything that Melva just said. Talk to me a little bit. I mean, obviously it's important to get the word out there, but when you're looking at really developing the organization and supporting the supports, tell me what a day in the life is like.
So, I'm sorry. For here, we have a number of programs that we try and work with individuals and meet them where they are. So a lot of times it looks like telling our story, sharing people's individual stories so that people can relate. That's something that, is important. People kind of see themselves, while everybody's different, they're facing the same obstacles to maybe finding the right resources they need. And while, class hopes to be that resource for them, we are also really good, as Melva mentioned, to really get the word out about other services, whether it be like our partners at the PA Link or even Tech Out, people finding assistive technologies that help them in their own homes. It's really important to share our stories, especially for, families to really recognize that they're not alone in this and that there are resources available to them, and here's how to kind of navigate that. Even from the development perspective, for example, just one of the stories that has really stuck out to me over the years is we had an individual that, another organization was working with, and they called us and they said, we don't know where to start. There's so many things. Have you ever experienced something like this? And, he came to us, he was living in a home without running water. He thought his landlord was his friend. We really worked one-on-one through it, so through our Community Partners program, to really start the process of trying to get him evicted because he was in a lease that, without running water, and where to even start. We worked with other community partnerships, we helped him move, we got him into a safe environment. And he took his first running hot water shower in 2 years or something like that. Wow. And that really sticks out to me because, something like a shower curtain was so exciting to him because it was something that, he didn't know was a possibility for him at the time. But with the help of our partners to really just kind of get that, kind of the steps. A lot of things sometimes seem overwhelming when we try and navigate our human services systems, but class really strives to be the resource for folks, whether it be through our services or through information referral or some of our partnerships.
I hear a lot about advocacy. Melva, you were talking about this started as a group of parents.
Right.
And if it weren't for those parents getting out there and saying, my kid needs this, that's the beginning of this huge organization now.
Yeah, and I think Shannon gives a really good example of how the assumption is that just because you have a disability, you don't deal with the same type of things that any other person would deal with who's trying to have a productive life in the community. Disability does not mean that you don't have typical risk of living in the community.
Sure.
Of course, we want everyone to be safe. We want everyone to be happy. We want all of that for ourselves, but we also want that for the people that we support. But I think one of the misnomers about community and people with disabilities is that sometimes people believe that just because you have a disability, you need to be protected. And not every person who lives with a disability wants to be protected. They just want to have the same rights as everyone else. They just want to be able to be included. They just want to be able to have a typical life where they get up in the morning, go to work, come home and take care of their day-to-day needs, and then start the day all over just like you and I would.
Absolutely, that's a great point because, realistically, yes, we all should help to protect those that are vulnerable, but just because you have a disability doesn't mean you're vulnerable.
Right.
It doesn't mean you don't want to do what you just said, get up and go to work every day. And maybe you're dealing with the transportation issue and the closed bridge, but so is everyone else.
That's right, that's right. And the other thing about that is I, continue to think about people living in the community is feeling included. That's such a huge piece that, we just don't move people in the community and say, oh, wow, we're successful. We got somebody living in the community. But community means nothing if you're not accessing your community, if you're not being accepted, if you're not being acknowledged as an adult who's managing your own life in spite of the disability. And so I think sometimes, individuals who are living with disabilities run into those challenges all the time with people making perceptions about what they're capable of.
They give themselves a badge of honor for doing something, but it's not enough.
Right. So it's an opportunity for us to support people. And I think where the successes lie is when we can help someone feel good about, having their own apartment, having their own home, having a job, or having something meaningful, going out in the community and doing something fun. And being able to tell their story the way that they want to tell their story versus telling it the way their caretakers or want it to happen.
Right. Well, and I think that goes right to Shannon, you talked about the storytelling, that it is important to get that out there. As you do that, are there things, like maybe there are experiences that you find that individuals that are supported by class are going through, that you're like, this is something the rest of the world needs to hear about? Is there something like that you're like, wait, this is something important that, hey, John, would you mind telling this to whomever? Or maybe it is parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work for you?
Well, and I think a lot of times folks think, there's the transition to adult services. There's always that clear benchmark, but that's not clear all the time. Transitions in life happen when maybe a loved one who was a caretaker passes away. And now an individual or a sibling is now in charge of, helping their sibling to really find their place in this new normal for them.
Right.
And I think that, that advocacy piece that we talked about too is really important for that stage, because those transitions can happen at any time. And to, look to other folks that you may know, your networks, or really to talk with your service coordinators or your supports teams to really find out what service may be a good fit for you. And you don't always have to pick the first one that rolls across, your desk, your phone, your whatever you're looking at, because, we've kind of put the human in human services. There's something out there for someone, and people deserve to be treated with the dignity and respect that class, prides ourselves on. But we may not be the service for someone, and likewise, we could be the perfect fit for someone else. So I think that's important, is that people have a choice and a voice in the way they choose to live their lives. And we do hope it's us. But at the same time, I think, giving people lots of opportunities and lots of information can be overwhelming, but to really make sure that they're comfortable with their services and supports.
Yeah. And I would hope, for us, the approach has always been changing attitudes.
Yes.
And so in order to change attitudes, it's really about us helping the community see an individual's value.
Yes.
And so we try to focus on the successes that an individual may have made. Like we have a big art show. And the people that attend our day program, they paint all of the pictures and they sell them. But when you see some of that artwork, it's amazing that they're, a person with a disability actually painted that. And, it's beautiful. And so focusing on the successes and making it more about that individual's abilities, what they can do, what they do bring to the table, what they can contribute. I think that begins to change the attitudes and help people see a different side of disability.
Yeah, I think you're educating the community when you do that.
And I think too, there's a friend of our organization who said, well, you guys were community before community was cool. Like throughout our history,
Yeah.
We've always really been on that front line of trying to get people into their own homes, into their own communities, but the communities weren't quite ready yet. So I think that a lot of times, even when we're going out now and facilities are telling us they're accessible, we're like, are you sure? To just try and take those as learning moments and, really encouraging people, likewise giving our folks the tools to, what to ask if you're going to try a new restaurant. I mean, we've had some, obstacles lately in our communities with the COVID, with like the outdoor eating, and a lot of restaurants putting tables on the sides of their buildings.
Yes.
So that they can still function. But that became an accessibility issue as well. Right. So really just trying to educate, constantly about resources, accessibility, and really making sure that, businesses in the community are open to the folks who may need those options as well.
And I think a lot of the things we're talking about too, in educating the community, that accessibility doesn't always mean right.
That's right. Right. It could be
Yeah.
something very, very basic.
Absolutely.
Maybe duct tape that you're wrapping around this little pin. And something very inexpensive that
Yes.
helps with accessibility.
Well, I think the cheapest thing is consideration because it doesn't cost you anything, right?
Right.
But you mentioned restaurants. I can recall, like with my grandparents, they had their own monikers for the restaurants they went to. But if there was a low light, that made it tough for someone who was older, whose eyesight wasn't as good as it used to be. And I think sometimes folks lose, no pun intended, but people lose sight of what disabilities include and that they're not all visible, and that there are things where you have to educate the community, going back to putting community in that, but you're also providing that education. I'm thinking as you're telling this story, you started with a group of parents in the 50s, and now you provide a day program, residential services, home and community-based services. You do the Beauty Beyond Limits event and talk about the accommodations and the tools that you provide to people. Why shouldn't any person be able to express themselves and be as beautiful as they are on the inside, express it outwardly? And then your Camp Firefly,
Yes.
my goodness. All the things to do at camp.
Yeah.
And Nina came up to me. She wanted to let me know that she loves camp, and she said the caregivers are just so loving. And when I met the folks at camp, I believe it was David that wanted me to sponsor him in sports. And just seeing what's going on at camp, but so many people independently telling me how much they love it.
Mm-hmm.
Kiana told me her favorite thing was swimming, because as someone who uses a wheelchair getting in the pool, she didn't feel confined. She felt she had freedom in the pool.
Right.
And it's those kind of things, Joey told me he's been going to camp for 20 years. So obviously he likes camp and he kept going back, but I think these are real examples for classes impacting the community. Part of the community before it was cool,
Right.
and going all the way back to a handful of parents. And now, how many people are you serving today?
About 540.
Directly, it's about between 550 and 600. And then when you factor in our partnerships like Link, Tech Out, information and referral, kind of those one-touch type of situations, we're well over 1,500.
And we do have to mention Tech Out, because just knowing that there is technology out there, obtaining it, and the concept of learning how to use it, whether or not it's for you.
Right. And I'm a firm believer that in order for a person to ensure that community is safe for them, assistive technology is key to that. And I wanted to mention one other thing about the camp and some of the feedback that I got, because I spent some time over there as well, and it is a wonderful, wonderful program. The one thing that many of the individuals said that they really, really like about the camp is that they feel like the staff treats them like adults. It's the one place that they can go and participate in the day-to-day activities, but also be able to hang out with their friends, choose what they get involved in, do some of the things that really helps them and makes them feel like they're making their own choices. They're in control of their lives for that week. And they feel like grown men and women. And
I saw that, and I think that how they feel about that shows. Whether it's, I don't feel like painting right now, and you go take a break by yourself because you're an adult, you can do that.
Right.
Not corralling a bunch of little kids, no, this is the activity that we're doing. It's nice that there are activities, but if it's not for you, that's okay too.
Right.
And like you said, making your own choices about those things. But wow, some of the choices they have at camp. I mean,
Yeah.
next year I might try to get there on a day in a zip line.
Oh.
Just saying, I wouldn't mind doing some of that myself. I know we are covering a lot of things here, and that really what we want people to know is class does do a lot.
Yes.
What else would you want people to know about class?
I would say the main thing about class is that we try to meet people where they are. We're not perfect by any means, but neither is life and neither is community. And so we do our best to work with the individuals that have a desire, a passion, and the same interest about living in the community, because we want people to have the same experiences as everyone else, to be able to have a full life in the community. How we get there might be individualized per the individual, because everybody in community living, independent living, isn't a shoe that fits everybody. It's a different approach for every single person based on their personal desires, their preferences, and their needs.
I am hopeful that when we share this, everyone's gonna be as excited as I am, and they're gonna wanna get in touch with you. What would you say, whether it's someone themselves, a family member that maybe could be served by class, or hopefully someone who wants to support the efforts of class? What do we want people to know about how to get in touch, or what they can do to get involved?
So that they can call our main number at 412-683-7100, and ask to speak directly to our referral, our intake coordinator.
Okay.
And that person can help them, first of all, learn about class. And I'm a firm believer that we want to bring you in, we want to talk to you about what are all of the available options, but not just about class, about what the community brings to the table. And then if class is a fit for that individual, then we will help you navigate the system to be able to access services. So that's a good way to start with getting involved in class.
No commitment, just reach out.
And if you're interested in donations or making a donation or participating or volunteering, the person to contact is sitting right next to me, Mrs. Shannon McCarty. And you can reach her at the same number, and the directory will get you to her extension.
And I think another quick and easy way is to go to our website. It's www.classcommunity.org. We also have worked in partnership with GPMP as well as Skilly AI to create our own kind of AI chatbot that is on our website. Her name is Trudy. She is inspired by one of our founders, and she can really help people direct, whether it's to make a donation, she should direct them to my contact information, or if they're interested in services or have questions that maybe they're kind of embarrassed to ask right off the bat, Trudy can kind of help walk them through that. She is a chatbot that we have trained, so we have input all the information. It's not an open AI source. She's trained not to retain any like personal health information or anything like that, but she can really help people navigate rather than sitting through the phone system, really finding who they want to contact at what point in time.
That's awesome, because it is that you can do it anonymously, but still get the information you want, and maybe realize that, okay, I really do want to talk to somebody else.
Or so, someone's just trying to figure out if we even offer what they're looking for.
Sure.
So that's probably the most asked questions besides like the assistive technology type of things.
Okay. We've covered a lot. I'm sure could sit here for hours going into the history, but I appreciate what you have shared, and I'm hoping that when we share this with the community, they will see class really is working to connect the community.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about all the good things that class offers.
Thank you, I'm honored.